a lot of fun, and it's pretty simple to get out on the water. But one thing that we don't always have with us, that we should have, is a VHF radio. I usually use a handheld VHF, which is either 1 or 5 watts, and this one does have GPS, which it's useful if we have an emergency. But I'd like something that's a little bit more permanently mounted. We don't have to worry about recharging, and something that can just fit into the console. So I decided that I was going to put a VHF radio in our pontoon boat. It seemed like when I looked around, most of the pontoons did not have one installed. They just kind of recommended taking a handheld. So I was thinking about where to put one, and I'm going to install one on our console and come up with a good location for the antenna. So that way when we're out on the water, we'll have reliable communications, 25 watt capability, and weather and digital selective calling and all that stuff. Typically what I've done is I've just kept the radio here in a drink holder, but we do have some room down here to install it. I don't want to put it up on top because I like this to be kind of kept clear. And we have the switch panel here, and we have the multifunction display here. So I'm thinking maybe right here would be a good place to mount the radio. One of the problems that pontoon boats have is there's not really a good place to mount an antenna up high. We could go in the bimini somewhere, but the bimini goes up and down. So I'm thinking if I mounted something in the back corner of the sun deck on a mount that would allow it to fold down, then it could go across the back of the sun deck when not being used, and that might give us pretty good reception. I was going to go with a 4 or 6 foot antenna, haven't decided yet. I didn't want to do a full 8 foot antenna like we have on UCO, the other boat, but something that's going to just work pretty well for communicating with people, locating friends out on the water, and then getting updates for the weather, and of course being able to call out in an emergency. After some research, we settled on the Standard Horizon GX1800GPS. It's a small form factor radio with a full 25 watts. It has built-in GPS, so I did not need an external antenna, and it is also capable of digital selective calling and automatic distress messaging. For an extra $20, I got the plastic cover. We've run into the same issue with other electronics we've installed. You're spending a lot of money and they don't even give you a cheap plastic cover. But in this case, it's really necessary to keep all the sun and weather off of it when it's not being used. And for an additional $20, got the little brackets that allow you to flush mount the radio instead of mounting it on top of the console where I felt it would be in the way. I've always had great results with Shakespeare antennas, so I decided I was going to get a Shakespeare antenna and also a stainless steel mount. This is able to turn in several different directions, but mostly I just wanted to lay down if we're going to store it or if we're going to go under a bridge. The 4-foot long fiberglass antenna came with about 12 feet of coax and a connector. The coax was about 6 inches too short, which you'll see later on. We had limited choices for installing the antenna, so we decided to put it on the rear sun deck. The template for flush mounting the radio was located in the rear of the owner's manual. I cut out the template and then just scotch taped it in place temporarily to make sure that the location didn't interfere with anything and that it was level. Once I removed the access panel, I could just double check to confirm that I wasn't going to be drilling into anything or cutting any wires, and I was going to be mounting the radio in a place that wouldn't interfere with the steering. I just traced out the template, and then I was going to cut everything with a rotozip until my camera died. It made for a nice clean installation, and the hidden mounting brackets inside really helped secure it, and then I just located a place for the microphone. Here are those hidden mounting brackets after they've been installed. This little thing is called a ferrite core. It's basically a magnet that goes around the power cord, and then it's secured in place with a zip tie. It prevents radio frequency interference. Whenever doing any marine wiring, it's really imperative that you use heat shrink connectors. These crimp-on heat shrink connectors are color-coded for the different gauges of wire. I'm using a 14 gauge connector here. Then I crimp them in place, and I use a little heat gun to shrink the material around the wire, making it waterproof. And this is the finished product. Next, I had to confirm the location of the antenna mounting base and then pre-drill everything. After putting in one of the screws, I just double-checked everything and made sure it was perfectly aligned, so when the antenna laid down, it was exactly where I wanted it. And the last hole to drill is a pass-through for the coax cable. I have to take off the side trim and run it through. Up into where the console is. After routing all of that cable, I was about 6 inches too short, and I had to pull it all out and reroute it.
East of the Leeward Islands. Formation chance through 48 hours, high, near 100%. Formation chance through 7 days, high, near 100%. This is a tropical weather bulletin from the National Weather Service Office in Ruskin. The station provides warning issued by the National Hurricane Center in Miami. Issued at 1:46 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. for the North Atlantic, Caribbean Sea, and the Gulf of Mexico. Active systems. The National Hurricane Center is issuing advisories on potential tropical cyclone 5.